When the violence began, what we needed more than anything was clarity in the middle of this. It's hard to see when the tear gas starts. Someone in America needed to tell the truth to the country. Instead, almost all of our so-called conservative leaders joined the left's chorus, as if on cue. On Friday, as American cities were being destroyed by mobs, the Vice President of the United States refused to say anything specific about the riots we were watching on television. Instead, Mike Pence scolded America for its racism. Carly Fiorina, once a leading Republican presidential candidate, tweeted that, and we're quoting, "It's white America that now must see the truth, speak the truth, and act on the truth." Meanwhile, Kay Cole James, who is the president of the Heritage Foundation, that's the largest conservative think tank in the country, you may have sent them money, hopefully for the last time. Kay Cole James wrote a long screed denouncing America as an irredeemably racist nation. Quote, "How many times will protests have to occur?" Got that? Have to occur. Like the rest of us caused this by our sinfulness. The message from our leaders on the right, as on the left, was unambiguous. Don't complain, you deserve what's happening to you. No one jumped in more forcefully or seemed angrier at America than former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley. Quote, "Tonight I turned on the news and I am heartbroken," Haley wrote. "It's important to understand that the death of George Floyd was personal and painful for many. In order to heal, it needs to be personal and painful for everyone." But wait a second, you may be wondering, how am I, quote, "personally responsible" for the behavior of a Minneapolis police officer? I've never even been to Minneapolis, you may think to yourself. And why is some politician telling me I'm required to be upset about it? Those are all good questions. Nikki Haley did not answer those questions, explaining is not her strong suit. That would require thinking. What Nikki Haley does best is moral blackmail. During the 2016 campaign, she compared Donald Trump to the racist mass murderer Dylan Roof. How is Donald Trump similar to a serial killer? Nikki Haley never explained that. She wasn't trying to educate anyone. Her only goal was political advantage. Nikki Haley is exceptionally good at getting what she wants. She's happy to denounce you as a racist in order to get it. She just did. In this case, Nikki Haley's wish came true. The riots were indeed, quote, "personal and painful for everyone." And then the pain kept increasing. 2 days after she wrote that, dozens of American cities had been thoroughly trashed, some destroyed. A country already on the brink of recession suddenly faced economic collapse. An already fearful population, locked down for months, had been thoroughly and completely terrorized. Mission accomplished. Let's hope Nikki Haley is pleased. We've now atoned. How did the Trump administration respond to the horrors going on around us? Well, yesterday morning, the country's national security advisor, Robert O'Brien, did a live interview from the White House lawn. Here's how it began.
First thing I want to say on behalf of the president, he said this to the family, but our hearts and prayers are going out to the Floyd family. We mourn with them and we grieve with them, and what happened there was horrific, and I can't even imagine what that poor family's going through as this video is played over and over again. That should have never happened in America, and it's a tragic thing. The president said that from the start, and we're with the family, and as the president said, we're with the peaceful protesters.
We're with the peaceful protesters, O'Brien announced. Really, can you be more specific about that? Who are you talking about exactly? Is it the people spitting foam as they scream, "F the police"? Is it the ones standing next to the arsonists doing nothing as they set fire to buildings? Is it the kids laughing as they film the looting and the beatings on their iPhones? Maybe it's the famous people in LA who are raising money online to support the rioters. They're all just peaceful protesters. Yeah, we support that. It's who we are. What about the president? Where was he during all of this? Well, on Friday night after the show, Leland Vittert and a cameraman headed to Lafayette Square in Washington to cover what was happening outside the White House. Here's what happened next.
Fox News reporter is getting chased out by the George Floyd protesters here in front of at Lafayette Park. Look, there's water being thrown on the reporter here. Hey, look, this protester just took his mic. And they just threw the mic at the reporter here. As you see, guys, things are spiraling here quick at the protest.
That was in Lafayette Square in the center of our capital city. And the tape raised a troubling question. If you can't keep a Fox News correspondent from getting attacked directly across the street from your house, how can you protect my family? How are you going to protect the country? How hard are you trying? On Twitter the next morning, the president reassured America that he and his family were just fine. The federally funded bodyguards had kept them safe. He did not mention protecting the rest of the nation, much of which was then on fire. He seemed aware only of himself. For people who like Donald Trump, who voted for Donald Trump, who support his policies, who have defended him for years and years against the most absurd kinds of slander, this was a distressing moment. The first requirement of leadership is that you watch over the people in your care. That's what soldiers want from their officers. It's what families need from their fathers. It's what voters demand from their presidents. People will put up with almost anything if you do that. You can regularly say embarrassing things on television. You can hire Omarosa to work at the White House. All of that will be forgiven if you protect your people. But if you do not protect them, or worse than that, if you seem like you can't be bothered to protect them, then you're done. It's over. People will not forgive weakness. That's the one thing. By the way, that is not a partisan point. It is human nature. Nero is the only Roman emperor whose name most people still remember. Why? Because he abandoned his nation in a time of crisis, and 2,000 years later, we still don't forgive him. Donald Trump's response to these riots, which is ongoing, is the singular test of his presidency. About an hour ago, the president announced that he's going to marshal all available forces, military and civilian, to stop these riots.
If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
Good for him. Immediately after that address, the president walked over to St. John's, which, as we just told you, was burning fewer than 24 hours ago, and that provided a powerful symbolic gesture. It was a declaration that this country, our national symbols, our oldest institutions, will not be desecrated and defeated by nihilistic destruction. We fervently hope this all works. What Americans want most right now is an end to this chaos. They want their cities to be saved. They want this to stop immediately. If the commander-in-chief cannot stop it, he will lose in November. The left will blame him for the atrocities they encouraged, and some voters will agree. Donald Trump is the president. Presidents save countries. That's their job. That's why we hire them. It's that simple. Some key advisors around the president don't seem to understand this or the gravity of the moment. No matter what happens, they'll tell you, our voters aren't going anywhere. The trailer parks are rock solid. What choice do they have? They've got to vote for us. Jared Kushner, for one, has made that point out loud. No one has more contempt for Donald Trump's voters than Jared Kushner does, and no one expresses it more frequently. In 2016, Donald Trump ran as a law and order candidate because he meant it, and his views remain fundamentally unchanged today. But the president's famously sharp instincts, the ones that won him the presidency almost 4 years ago, have been since subverted at every level by Jared Kushner. This is true on immigration, on foreign policy, and especially on law enforcement. As crime in this country continues to rise, Jared Kushner has led a highly aggressive effort to let more criminals out of prison and back onto the streets. This is reckless. At this moment in time, it's insane. It continues to happen. The president seems to sense this. At times, he seems aware he's being led in the wrong direction. He often derides Kushner as a liberal, and that's correct. Kushner is. But Kushner has convinced the president that throwing open the prisons is the key to winning African-American votes in the fall, and that those votes are essential to his reelection. Several times over the past few days, the president has signaled that he would very much like to crack down on rioters. That is his instinct. If you've watched him, you believe it. But every time he has been talked out of it by Jared Kushner and by aides that Kushner has hired and controls. Kushner's assumption, apparently, is that African-American voters like looting. That is wrong. Normal Americans of all colors hate looting. Obviously, why wouldn't they hate looting? They're decent people.